Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome to the very last day of this decade. So crazy to say, but it's true. We are about to start the next decade of our lives. So, to celebrate and to kick it off right, Sweetwater and I wanted to create a video that would help you achieve your dreams and achieve your goals going into the next decade. So, this video is 5 tips on how to succeed in the music industry, how to become a professional drummer, musician. It involves so much advice and things that I've learned along the way and things that I've heard and learned from other people surrounding me in this music industry. And we really hope that this video helps you do what you love, because that's what it's about and that's what 2020 is about. So let's get started. Now, I'm not saying to cancel your dreams and cancel your goals and throw it all away and tell yourself you're never going to be in a big band touring on the road, because that's not what I'm saying. Have those goals, have those dreams, because that's the only way you get there is by working hard towards them. But I am saying that many of you may or may not know that touring on the road as a professional drummer nowadays isn't necessarily going to pay all your bills. It isn't necessarily going to guarantee you millions of dollars. In fact, those stories of guys who play in bands and become millionaires are pretty few and far between nowadays. The way that the music industry is, most of the time, many of the bigger acts, the bands that you go and see at big festivals and the bands that have tens of thousands of people show up for them, many of those guys come home and have a day job, or come home and have to do other types of like selling products or teaching lessons and things to supplement the income because of the way the music industry is. And so my biggest first plea to you is to change your perspective and open your mind to other opportunities. Studio work, teaching lessons, selling merchandise, creating something that works around what it is that you do to help supplement that income and to help you get to where you want to go. Another thing that goes into that is don't quit your day job. Don't just immediately be like, okay, I'm going to be a full-time musician and I'm just going to go for it. And if you have a good job, especially one where you have some flexibility in your hours and you can go play gigs at night and you can work on yourself and on what you're doing as a musician in your free time, and you have healthcare and benefits and a part-time or full-time salary, keep that for a while until you get to the point where you can move in that next direction. And so the perspective is everything. I've done things from, teaching lessons to managing other people's music and drumming and helping them to succeed in that world. I've played gigs in big arenas. I've played really small gigs. I've played in churches. I've done studio work for bands. There's so much that has come into what it is that I've done and that enables me to be a professional musician, and that terminology, professional musician, is not a this is the answer to being a professional musician. That's the same thing with the word succeed. You could see succeeding as making enough money to work a part-time job and do music the rest of the time that you have, and that's what's so cool about it, is if you change your perspective and open your mind to all the opportunities that there are out there, you can much more quickly become someone who is making an income playing music, making an income doing what you love, being able to support yourself in this music industry without instantly realizing that ultimate of being in this huge band. So many of your favorite bands took 10, 15 years to become successes. And so you can't do it overnight, and changing your perspective can really, really help you open those doors and start to make an income as a musician. Now, on to point 2, that is to learn to market yourself. And this one is really important because here's the thing. You can be the best drummer on the entire planet. You can spend 12 hours a day in a practice room. You can play more technically than every single person you've ever met. But that does not guarantee you an opportunity to play drums or music for a living. And that's what's really unfortunate. I wish I could say that just playing drums really well will get you where you want to go, but that's not how it works. You have to find an opportunity, you have to network, you have to get that position in a band that's going to become successful. You have to be a hired gun touring on the road. You have to do something that gets you those opportunities. And so learning to market yourself isn't hey, let me tell you, you should make a YouTube channel and get 1 million subscribers and then you're set. That doesn't even mean you're set either. Learning to market yourself is learning to create and to network and to be able to show what it is that you can do. And that's really important because, yes, having a YouTube channel with 1 million subscribers could get you in front of people's faces and could get you that big opportunity. But the same thing can be said of having well-recorded videos of your playing, of having well-recorded videos of your gigs, of the things that you do, being able to show a potential band or another musician, like, hey, check out what I can do, and show them a quick video of you playing that shows the skills, that has the audio. Those are different pieces of the marketing puzzle. It doesn't mean become famous on social media and you're guaranteed success. That's not true either. Even a YouTube channel with 1 million subscribers, if you're doing videos that have copyrighted music in the background, isn't going to pay your bills. And so another big piece of marketing is understanding that big businesses, and you have to kind of consider yourself a business, your product, your career is something like a business. You have to understand that many of those big businesses were not profitable instantly. And so many musicians that I've met think to themselves like, man, I'm such a great player, I'm not going to do nothing for less than $300 a gig, or I'm not going to do anything for less than $500 a gig. And hey, more power to you. I hope that you get paid. But when I started out, and when many of the people that I have talked to started out, they did things for free, You went and played a gig because you had the time to do it and because you love to play drums, and you made a connection. You built a network. And just like a big business, you give away products for free when you start out. You don't think like, oh man, here's a really awesome soda that I just created, I'm gonna charge $3 for it and hope that someone buys it. Like, it doesn't work that way. You have to give it to a few people, let them try it out, then let them tell their friends about how awesome that soda is. And it's the same thing with your playing. You can't be like, hey, looking for a gig that pays $500 a night because I'm really good. Okay, cool, you're really good, but that doesn't mean that there's gonna be a gig that pays $500 a night. What that means is you need to go play a couple gigs with some other dudes that are really talented that have already made it. Go volunteer your services to some guys who are out there playing cover band gigs and show them what you've got. Show them, those skills, and let them tell their friends. Let them call you back and offer to pay you next time. So giving away your product for free, opening those doors, marketing yourself, whether it's via social media, whether it's having business cards and going to a gig and just being friendly and talking to other musicians, and then showing them that video that you have, like, oh hey, check out my playing, But you gotta be cool about it, and you gotta understand that you're not better than anyone, And many of these guys, you may play better than them, but that doesn't mean you're better than them. And that's what goes into the next suggestion I have for you, and that is to lose your ego. All right, so lose your ego, what does that mean? What that means, and of course in common sense terms, it means don't be prideful, but at the end of the day, what that means is just because you're a good player doesn't mean you need to act like you're a good player. And in some ways, yes, confidence is key. You do have to understand that you can fill that gig. You do have to understand that you are going to be successful, and you have to have confidence in yourself. But that's not the same thing as telling people how good you are, or acting like you're just super legit and putting on a face that people may or may not react well to. Because at the end of the day, one of the biggest opportunities in music nowadays is being a hired gun. Playing for a big act, because nowadays most successful bands that actually make big money are pop acts, are alternative rock acts, things like that, where it's the music requires a face. It requires some big name, and then they fill the band with other people who are very talented. And yes, you have to be good, but at the end of the day, to be a hired gun, I've heard so many hired guns, guys that have toured with huge names, girls that have toured with huge names, say, you have to be a cool person. And that's the other side of dropping your ego, because yes, maybe you'll get hired one time for a tour because you're just really, really good. But after you spend 60 days in a bus with other people and they realize man, you're just not a cool person. You're stuck up, you're full of yourself, you think you're better than everyone, you act like it, you might not get called back for the next tour. And then that Same thing with the marketing, same thing with the connections. That goes on to your next gig because, hey, you played for some big act and they're gonna tell all their big act friends that you weren't very much fun to play with. When someone calls and says, hey, you got any suggestions for a guitarist or a drummer? They're not gonna suggest you because you were no fun to be around. And so realize that we're all musicians, we're all people, and just be ready to love and help and play music and support the people around you. Yes, there is competition in the fact that only one person can get that gig at a time, but there's not competition in the fact that we're all musicians, we're all growing, we're all trying to get there. And at the end of the day, many big acts are gonna hire a guy who's can play the parts, because a lot of these times it's not about, you don't have to be the most technical drummer in the world to go tour with a pop act. You have to be able to fill that gig, and you also have to be able to fill that gig well and be liked while you do it. And so sometimes you may not get the call just because you're good. You have to get the call because you're good and you're a cool person to be around. And so lose the ego, understand that that's not really going to help you, but still be confident. Don't lose the confidence. All right, so you're probably wondering when we're going to get around to playing tips. And at the end of the day, the playing part is, it's necessary. I don't really know if this video, I don't think I need to tell you hey, be a good drummer. Yes, you need to be a good drummer who understands what a good drummer is, not just a good drummer who can play technically, which that's a little secret tip there for you. But at the end of the day, the next thing that I really, really believe is important to being successful as a drummer, as a musician in this industry, is learning to use electronics. And for guitarists and for many other people, many other musicians, that's not necessarily something super new. But as drummers, it's something that maybe you haven't thought about. It's something that maybe you haven't done a lot. And in this hired gun world, playing for a big pop act nowadays, pretty much means knowing how to use triggers, knowing how to use electronic drum pads, knowing how to use Ableton, and knowing how to run multi-tracks and create backing tracks for these musicians. Because at the end of the day, songs nowadays are so full of pads and synth sounds in the background and electronic drumming percussion that's been put in the studio and isn't actually played by a human being. All those things are created and put into the tracks or created by the drummer live. And so you may be the best drummer on the planet, but if you don't know how to use electronic drums, if you don't understand triggering, if you don't understand multi-tracks and being able to create and craft the sound that's on the album, then you're not going to be able to fill that gig. They're gonna hire somebody else who's also really good, maybe not as good as you, but who knows how to do all the things that you need to do to fill the gig. And so it's huge learning how to run tracks, learning Ableton, whether it's a pop act or even in the worship world, playing at churches and playing conferences and things like that. I'm always having to do stuff with Ableton. I'm always having to do multi-tracks. I'm always having to work with electronic pads and triggering other sounds to fill out the atmosphere and the effects of the song to create something really special. And so that goes across almost all genres, maybe not as much rock and roll, but even metal and rock bands nowadays have those extra sounds, those extra samples, those triggers on the drums. And you may get away with it. You may get away with not knowing it, but you don't want to be that guy who gets a call and gets an audition and then you don't get the gig because you don't understand all the sides of it. So I hope that you check out my recent video on how to build a tracks rig. I wanted to go ahead and do that video first so that if you're watching this, you can go back and check it out. The link is in the description. I talk about Ableton, I talk about tracks, and I talk about the importance behind that. And those kinds of things are huge. Just being able to say yes and tell them, yes, I can do that. Yes, I can create that really cool multi-layered snare sound with the effect underneath it. And then, I know how to set up an Ableton session so that we can run all the tracks that we need. That's even a big thing for your own band, Nowadays, if you have a tracks rig, if you're trying to succeed with a band, being able to fill out behind your band and maybe not have so many musicians on stage, maybe not have so many mouths to feed, but be able to still create such a great sound for your audience, that is huge. So learn to use those electronics. All right, so my last tip is to diversify your talents. And that doesn't just apply to drumming, that doesn't just apply to being a musician. It applies to your music career as a whole and the music industry as a whole. But it goes back to what I said at the beginning, to change your perspective and not just pigeonhole yourself into one idea. And so when I say to diversify your talents, I mean, don't just sit down and learn how to only play metal drums. You need to learn how to play many different genres so that if someone calls, you can answer and say, yes, I can play that. Can you play jazz? Yeah, I can play jazz. Maybe jazz isn't my favorite. Maybe jazz isn't the best genre that I have, but yes, I can play jazz. Oh, yeah, of course I can play rock. Oh, yeah, you need someone for a cover band? I can sit down. I can play fat grooves that make people dance. You know, that's the playing side of this whole dynamic, this whole becoming successful, this whole being able to create revenue for yourself as a musician. It's the ability to fill the gig and to fill the gig well, to diversify your talents so that no matter what's going on, you're able to sit in and you're able to play. And going back to that little secret tip I said of not just being a technical drummer, but being a good drummer and understanding what a good drummer is. A good drummer knows how to play for the environment, whether that's mixing your sound behind the kit, knowing that you're in a venue where you can't hit the cymbals quite as hard, but you still need to hit the drums to make sure the drums are full, but the cymbals aren't hitting the audience so much. Maybe it's knowing that you really need to just get more of a crack out of that snare drum so that the EQ in the room will feel better. It'll make the sound better. You know, those little things that you can do as a drummer, learning more than just how to play a paradiddle really, really fast, learning more than just how to be technical on the drums. It's learning the entirety of your instrument and the entirety of the music industry. That is going back to the music business, the marketing, trying to learn all that you can about being a successful musician and being someone who can lift up your band, lift up yourself as a musician into new heights, because in today's world, it's oversaturated, you know? And if you're just a good drummer, that's what you are. You're just a good drummer. If you're just a good rock drummer, well, I hope that there's a good rock gig that comes up for you, because you're limiting your potential. You're limiting the opportunities that you have. And so it's so huge to diversify your talents. And for me, and I'm gonna sit here, I'm gonna be honest with you, I believe the only reason that I am successful like I am, or that I'm professional drummer, or whatever you wanna call me, the only reason that is the case is because I am very diversified in what I can do. I can do video, I can do audio, I can play drums, I can do marketing, I can do all of that, and it's all come together to help me do this whole social media, YouTube, personality, drummer thing. I mean, I speak at events, I teach, I can craft educational drumming videos. And this may sound like I'm bragging or something, but I'm not. It's not that I'm not better than anyone else. I am just, I am more flexible than most people. And because of that, I've been able to do all this stuff. Being able to shoot video, being able to record audio, understanding those concepts allow you to market yourself like we talked about before without spending money. If you have to hire a video guy, if you have to hire an audio engineer, if you have to rent out a studio, you're not going to be able to create much content. And yeah, you can just use your iPhone, but like I said, the iPhone and the quality of what you do really, really instantly affects how people look at you. Because if your audio sounds great and your video looks great, people are instantly going to get that idea like, wow, okay, cool, so this guy knows what he's doing. And then when they see you play really well, they're going to be like, that's awesome. But you know what it's like to watch a video of somebody who just recorded themselves with an iPhone and the sound is really bad, and you don't necessarily care whether or not they're a good drummer because it's not that great to watch or to listen to. And that is not to discourage you from recording yourself with an iPhone if that's all you have. But You have to try to learn and to expand yourself so that you can be more useful to yourself and useful to the others around you. One of my favorite examples of this, and I hope that he doesn't mind that I'm talking about him in this video, but one of my favorite drummers on YouTube, one of my favorite drummers in general, is Matt McGuire. And he plays for the Chainsmokers now. He is a member of the Chainsmokers now, which that's insane to say. He started on YouTube, although he's played gigs and clubs and things for years. I mean, he's incredibly talented. But one of the biggest reasons, like, the Chainsmokers didn't hire him as their drummer because he had a lot of followers on social media. They hired him as their drummer because he's an incredible drummer. He had a lot of followers on social media. He knew how to do musical and outside of just the drumming world things. The guy not only uses the pads and uses Ableton and things like multi-tracks and being able to trigger and craft things like that, but he's the music director for them, and so he helps design the shows. He helps put together these incredible world tours, and I just got to see him play live the other day with them, and it's phenomenal what he and the team put together. But he's a mastermind behind that. He has opened his doors and he works his tail end off to create something special, not just behind the drums. And yet he's so good behind the drums that no one would blame him if he was just a drummer. No one would be like, oh man, Matt, you know, why is it that you don't learn to do other things? You're such a good drummer. Like, it's like, he is an incredible drummer and all these other things, and that's what it is. You diversify your talents, you diversify your usefulness, and you compound the opportunity that you can have for yourself. You know, if you can tell some band that's already pretty successful and be like, hey, not only can I play drums, but I can run your electronics for you. I can set up Ableton. I can shoot video and edit video of our shows. I can help with the social media marketing side of things. Like, that makes you way more valuable than just being able to play the drums. And at the end of the day, it allows you to create income when just the drumming isn't creating income. I'm not too proud to say that some months when I need to, I do other things. You know, sometimes I record other people in my studio. Sometimes I shoot video for other people. I do things like my career is not like every month I'm getting paid big money to play drums. Now, sometimes it happens. Sometimes I play arenas. I've played an NFL halftime show. I've done big gigs, but that's not every single month. That's not every single time. And because I've diversified my talents and I've opened my doors and I've lowered my ego and I've made connections, I get calls to do things over and over again to get paid. Sometimes I get paid thousands of dollars. Sometimes I get paid a few $100s. But you know what? It's getting paid to do what you love. And yeah, I get to say no a lot more than I used to. I used to say yes to everything to open those doors. But and now sometimes I do say like, yeah, I'm sorry, I can't do it for $300 or I can't do it for $500. But it's not about that, you know. It's about opening those doors, creating something special, and allowing yourself to be a professional, to make money doing what you love. And at the end of the day, as I mentioned before, in changing your perspective, many of these guys on the road playing as hired guns for these bands, they have products on the side. They sell things on the side. They teach lessons at every single show. You have to diversify what it is that you can do to increase the probability and the opportunity for yourself to be successful in the music industry. So, I hope these 5 tips help you. I hope that they open your mind. I hope that you realize that not just playing drums, like if you think that you're a failure if you can't sit down behind a kit for 50,000 people every night and make $1 million, then you've missed out. You've missed out on the opportunity to do what you love and to make money doing what you love, you know? And that's it. For me, it's easy because I love the video side of things. I love the audio side of things. I love marketing. I love working with other musicians. I love playing small gigs. I love playing big gigs. It doesn't matter. Like, I love playing drums and doing what it is that I do. And I hope that you can take that mentality. You probably already have it, because if you love to play music, you love it. And it's so much easier to do and to work hard and to create and to succeed if you just love it and you just have a good attitude and you don't think like, man, not getting paid enough for this gig, like, or man, I'm better than that guy, I don't know why he got that gig. Like, that doesn't help. Change your mentality, change your perspective, lower your ego, learn to diversify, to be an open door for other people to use you to create awesome things. That is how you become successful as a musician, as a drummer, as someone in this new age, multimedia, social media, online world. You have all the potential from your house, from your home, to create something special. I'm in my house right now, and yes, this is a pretty legit studio. I built it by hand. I learned how to build things. I learned all the construction techniques. I wired this place. I did some framing. I put in the flooring. I used my hands to build the studio that I have here today. And once again, it's not that not that I'm special. I'm not. I just work hard and I love what I do and I want to create something. And so go do it. Go love what you do, create something, become successful. But at the end of the day, success is what you make it. And I love to use quotes around successful because, I'm just a 28-year-old dude who plays drums and can put a roof over his head and support his family, and I get cool opportunities, but I'm no more successful than the next guy. I do what I love, and that's all it boils down to. And you know what? If I had to have a normal job during the day and get to play music on the weekends or something, that would be awesome too. It's music. It's awesome. It's fun. Go out there and do it. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Check out my other videos. I put out a video on how to record drums recently. That should be a very helpful video. I've got some really cool in-depth videos on my studio. Sweetwater has incredible videos on their YouTube channel that break down all sorts of products, all sorts of gear, all sorts of techniques on how to record and how to create quality content. And if you have questions about the gear that you need to create things like this, to record yourself, you can ask a Sweetwater sales engineer. They give you a personal sales engineer. You call them and they'll answer your questions, and if they can't answer them, they'll send you to someone in the company that does know. Because as much as I know, the guys at Sweetwater and the girls at Sweetwater know way more than I do, and that's why I support this company, and I promote this company, and I work with this company because they do things right and they care about you being successful. And that's why together we created this video, and I hope that it helps. So happy drumming, happy music making, happy becoming a professional in 2020 and beyond. Thanks for watching.